Border Patrol getting ready for a wave of new executive orders on the border from President Biden undoing former President Trump's border policies. This says just south of the border, a wave of shootouts, carjackings, armed robberies, and other violent crimes as two rival factions of the Gulf cartel fight for control. With me now, Brandon Judd, National Border Patrol Council President. Brandon, I want to start with the executive orders first, because we were expecting them last week, and now they've been delayed. And I'm wondering, with 40 executive orders already under his belt, maybe internally, at least, the administration, is it possible, do you think, that they're rethinking some of what they might do here?
I believe that they are, but the other thing is they're going to wait until they have a secretary in place. Right now, you have an acting secretary, you have an acting CBP commissioner. They're going to want to have a secretary in place because this secretary actually knows immigration policy. He was the deputy secretary in the Obama administration in the first 4 years when policy was actually good. But I can tell you right now that because of what's currently happening, we're already seeing a large increase of illegal border crossers, so much so that we're having to train Border Patrol agents to drive buses, detention buses, something that isn't necessarily within our job scope. We need to have as many agents as we can on the border to protect the border, to apprehend as many people that cross. And if we have to pull our resources out because we're expecting a huge flood of people, that's a problem, and it must be addressed.
Well, this was interesting because a federal judge in Texas on Friday blocked President Biden's plan to block deportations. And this is something that is sort of more concrete on illegal aliens for another month or so. But the judge's decisions do not curb the Biden directives to sharply reduce the arrests and the detention of illegal migrants. So I'm wondering how you look at this, because there is some pushback here, and that indicates that some of these executive orders or policies may not pass.
Yeah, a lot of them is not going to. These are going to be challenged in court. And again, you know, you can look at the ACLU and you can look at how they challenged President Trump's executive orders. The difference here is these executive orders, they are illegal and they're going to be overturned. So that's a good thing. But there's also something that we have to understand. There's a clause that's called prosecutorial discretion, where the Biden administration can choose who they're going to prosecute and who they're not going to prosecute. It's just like a police officer choosing not to give a ticket to somebody who's going 5 miles per hour, but gives a ticket to somebody going 15 miles per hour over the speed limit. They can choose what they are going to prosecute and what they're not going to prosecute. What they can't do is they can't just make a blanket statement and say, we're not going to deport anybody, which is obviously against the law.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because when you look at both sides of the coin here, under President Trump, you could say it was an extreme position on illegal immigration, that the right went more right, and that President Biden is going to continue to go left, causing this polarization on the issue. Some of the things that we are expecting him to do to undo Trump's rules on asylum at the border, the refugee resettlement, and also the reunification of the migrant families. This was a president that got on the platform and said, I'm going to come into the office on day one, and I'm going to unify. I'm going to bring both sides together. And I know there were millions of people, 74 million people, that didn't vote for me, but I'm also going to be their president. So being so extreme, not trying to strike a balance per se, how's that governing for everybody?
Well, it's very interesting. I will be the first to tell you that as I put on a uniform and when I go out and I patrol the border, I can tell you that President Trump's policies were fantastic for border security. They drove illegal immigration to 45-year lows, not just once, but twice. We'll always say, when we look back and we say President Trump did a great job on border security, when you look at the rhetoric that is currently coming out of the current administration, the Biden administration, you have to wonder if he really wants another 4 years, because he did say he was going to unify, yet the policies that are being implemented are anything but unification. The vast majority of the American public has said they do not want illegal immigration. I would highly recommend that the Biden administration looks at this, and that's, I'm going to go right back to my original point. Once we get Secretary Mayorkas in, there is a possibility that we are going to see good policy. It's just not happening yet.
Yeah, and let's also just make the point or emphasize the fact that this isn't just about illegal immigration. When we're talking about problems at the border, we are also talking about violent crime. We're talking about bringing narcotics into this country. That was something the former president was very, very much against. So this is even more pervasive than just a matter of illegal immigration.
No, absolutely. You know, you talked about the big drug wars that are going on right now south of the border. This is all about turf. This is all about controlling drug trafficking lanes. And they look at this when you loosen up on illegal immigration, it gives cartels the opportunity to bring in more of their drugs. It creates artificial gaps in the border, and drug cartels can exploit that. So again, it's not just about illegal immigration. Border security is about drug trafficking. It's about bringing human trafficking. It's about trafficking in products that are counterfeit. There's a lot of different things that happen on the border, not just illegal immigration.
Yeah, I'm Brandon Judd. You know, there are a lot of people who are concerned about that. As I said, the people that did vote for President Trump, and they're going to be looking for this president to protect them from some of those things as well. So we'll be watching closely, but great to see you tonight. Thank you.